What's going on, everyone? John Mango here, and in this video we're covering a topic that's quite popular these days for good reason for those of you out there searching to improve your lives, improve your focus, and that is dopamine detoxing. Okay, now specifically in this video, what I want to talk to you about is the exact concept about it, what, why, and who, and then I'm going to flip this board around. We're going to discuss exactly how you can create your own dopamine detox blueprint, okay, and you'll understand why I'm saying dopamine detox like this. Okay, we're going to make sure that we do this in a sustainable way that's going to transform your life. And if you are somebody who wants to reach your max potential in life through mastering your physical fitness, nutrition, and these types of concepts, then make sure you stick around till the end of the video. We're going to invite you into something special that you can be a part of as well. But without further ado, let's get into this video where I want to drop you some super valuable content that's changed my life and has changed a lot of people's lives in terms of being more successful, whether it's in your health and fitness, whether it's in your relationships, your business, finance, you know, whatever it may be, whatever it is you're looking to pursue, this might be one of, if not the missing piece to you accomplishing that. Let's go ahead and get started. So here we go. We're going to talk about the dopamine detox. What is dopamine first and foremost? And essentially it's a chemical in the brain, you know, we're keeping it layman's terms. Chemical in the brain that is responsible for making you feel very good, okay? Also known as the reward system. So for example, when you eat food, your body releases dopamine. This is a instinctual, natural thing that our bodies have, along with all these other animals, bodies have embedded in us to want to continue doing activities that keep us alive, keep us happy, keep us moving, whatever it is. So this is the way our brain sets up this reward. Now, this can be very detrimental, as we're going to explain very shortly, but basically some triggers that cause dopamine, aside from typical dopamine triggers, because our brain's always releasing this sort of drug type of a chemical, which is, you know, regular food, drinking drinks, even drinking water, we release some dopamine because, again, it's something that our body says, oh, this is good, I want more of this. Sex releases massive amounts of dopamine. Obviously, it's something our bodies want to do. There's plenty of activities, okay? There's also activities that create massive dopamine spikes that require lots of work ahead of them. However, for the sake of this video, we're talking about the opposite. The society that we live in now is full of, left, right, and center, everywhere you go, in your pocket at all times, full of dopamine triggers, okay? Things that will trigger this chemical reward system release in your brain for little to no work. And this will ultimately ruin your life, your chance of success, and all of that, as we're going to talk about soon. Now, these triggers will be things like social media. Okay, going to be things like video games, junk foods, so not regular food, but foods that are highly processed, highly addictive. Again, they're all over the place, especially if you're in a developed country. Pornography, huge, right? Because now it's essentially artificial sex in a way, right? You can get such a high stimulation without actually having to go and do the work to get sex. You understand? So pornography is one of the most deadly, if not the most deadly. Poor conditioning and marketing infused things. Get fit fast, get rich fast. They tie this and infuse this to things like YouTube videos, like social media posts, like other dopamine triggers, okay, even junk foods in some cases. They infuse this marketing in there, which only further reinforces short-term pleasure. And short-term pleasure is exactly why we want to dopamine detox, because this detoxing of, or this slowing down of these massive constant releases of dopamine is essentially like having a IV drip of an extremely powerful drug, and every time you check that Instagram, every time you check the YouTube, every time you watch porn and masturbate, or whatever it is, okay, any of these detrimental activities that are more abundant than not these days, you're getting another drip, more cocaine, heroin, whatever it is. That's essentially what we're doing here. And so this leads us into why we do this, because dopamine set up as a reward system originally, now is being leveraged and manipulated by people, whether it's through marketing, pornography, all these different things, okay? Social media is designed to release as much dopamine as possible so that you get addicted to it, because ultimately this causes addiction. Okay, now it can cause a good addiction or a bad one. So obviously bad ones are addictions to any of these triggers. A good addiction would be something considered like reading books. You see, because reading books are not heavy dopamine triggers, but you will eventually get the dopamine trigger by finishing that book and spending the time and investing the time to read it, for example. So that could actually lead to you wanting to read more books. You go to the gym, it's not very pleasurable right off the bat, but over time, over decades, you see the physique, you see the progress, you feel better, you get dopamine from that, creates an addiction of wanting to constantly go to the gym and improve yourself. This is the balance that we want to obviously favor more towards the good side, less towards the bad side. Now, instant gratification leads to misery across the board in all circumstances. There's no exceptions here. And instant pleasure is essentially just, again, a dopamine trigger that requires no work up front. And we'll get into this a little bit more in a bit. So obviously, this can cause a lot of mental issues. You see nowadays ADD, anxiety, depression, psychoactive disorders are basically all over the place. It seems like every single person has them. Even people's dogs have them now, right? Like, it's so abundant that people wonder why. Why is it like this? Well, it's no wonder when we're constantly addicted to our phones, for example, for one of the examples. And when we're not on our phones, we're playing video games. And when we're not playing video games, we're watching pornography, and so on, and so on, and so on. And then we're doing some of these things at the same time, eating junk food while playing video games. And it's just an overload, creating a bad addiction. So that's going to accelerate mental problems, depression, anxiety, a lack of focus, okay? And so if you understand the destructive habits and mindset that this creates, this is only a popular topic amongst people who are seeking to improve their mental state, who are seeking to break free from the focus draining activities that they understand are keeping them from their goals. That's why a lot of people still have no idea what this is. But if you're watching this and this is the first time you heard of it, or you've heard of it before and that's why you're watching this, then you're in a good spot because you're very aware of something that very few are. Now, we want to talk about who this is for, who needs to do the dopamine detox, okay? And again, basically anybody addicted to any of these triggers severely that also understands and is aware of their laziness and procrastination. I get a lot of people messaging me, telling me they know what they need to do, but they just don't do it, and they don't understand why, okay? I've been there. I couldn't resonate more with that. And again, that's where this comes in. So people who want more out of life, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people that they enjoy this. They want to stay with the short-term pleasures, and they're okay with the anxiety and depression. They're okay with poor health, with being sick and all that. To each their own, okay? But for those who want more out of life, dopamine detoxing is something that's going to help you achieve that. Obviously, want to be more successful, have more focus, and get more done. This is something that a lot of people overlook, is how important being able to focus on a task actually is. You realize that the average human attention span now is literally shorter than a goldfish. This is why, okay? People, I wonder why, but no, this is exactly why. It's because very intelligent people have learned how to leverage the human brain to give them more money, to give them more attention, to give them more of what they want. Make no mistake about it, the people that came up with the social medias, they are not consuming it. They are focused on building something for you to consume, okay? So having more focus is going to lead to you being one of those people. I'm not saying do something where you're, stealing creating bad habits in people, but you can use this for good. Create that focus to actually produce something helpful to the world, helpful to people. For example, content like this, teaching people to create content like this, okay? Mental issues that need fixing. So if you're tired of the anxiety attacks, if you are finally sick and tired, I know I had depression and anxiety and all these issues. I finally put my foot down. I said, I need to fix this. I'm going to fix this. And this has only helped with that. Trying to live like the 1%, because again, 99 aren't even aware of this. Now, the key here is that we're looking for sustainability. This is why I said dopamine detox like this, because detox is, the connotation of this is typically negative or extremist, in the sense that people think that this means, okay, so you take these triggers and you just get rid of them. Just fast from them entirely for a week, 2 weeks, a month. Social media detox, right? And though it's obviously a step in the right direction and it's great, just like I don't believe in extreme diets because they're not sustainable, eventually, if you cut carbs out, are you going to cut them out for the rest of your life? If the answer is no, then it's not a sustainable approach. You need to learn how to live with them. You need to learn how to, again, have them around and leverage them. So there's actually ways we can leverage the dopamine. We can leverage these things to work for us, as we're going to explain. But just a quick example, I leverage social media to create content, to expand my business, my influence, to have the positive impact that I want, to give value to people, okay? That's a very good reward, a very good way to use the platform instead of it using me, okay? So just an example of that. So remember, we're looking for sustainability. We don't want 30 days of giving all this up and all of a sudden there's a fix. No, because the second you reintroduce these triggers, then what? You're just gonna relapse. It's like an addict giving up alcohol for 30 days, knowing that they're gonna start having alcohol again. It's not a sustainable approach. You need to slowly cut things down, incremental progress. So that takes us to part 2 of the video. Now we understand the basic overall premise of the dopamine detox. Next, we're going to talk about exactly how to map out your dopamine detox blueprint. Okay, got a couple of graphs here that might seem a little complicated, but trust me, this is all going to make sense once we're done, okay? And I wouldn't doubt if this is the most helpful dopamine detox video that you watch. Now, how do we do this? And again, remember, we're not trying to cut it all out completely, but that's what we're going to talk about right now. This is what we do. First thing you need to do is identify your specific dopamine trigger. So for example, for me, video games aren't really a dopamine trigger. If I start indulging in them too much, then obviously eventually they start to become more powerful of a habit, but it's very easy for me to have an Xbox laying around. I just don't play it. It's not a vice for me. Though at one point it was when I was younger, it's just not that way anymore. So for me, for example, it would be things like Snapchat and TikTok. Sometimes I start getting too much on these platforms that aren't serving me. And so I recognize that. Or even Instagram early morning. I use Instagram for my business, but I find myself going and searching for the like or the comments or the followers a little too early on in the day, which we'll talk about why that's detrimental. So I identify my triggers. I got Instagram, for example. I've got YouTube. YouTube was a big one, okay? It might be Netflix for you. It might be addictive foods, okay? Sugary foods, highly processed, sodium-filled foods. It might be porn for you, okay? Again, notice how a lot of these things people don't talk about, or even yet, people encourage masturbation and pornography, right? It's almost acted like, yeah, we get it. Everybody kind of watches it. It's accepted. It's normal. That's for the 99%. That's not for you, okay? This is not normal. Watching pornography is not normal or natural for a human being. Masturbating all the time is not normal or natural for a man or a woman. Understand these things, okay? Now, how do we go about it? So once you identify these triggers, here's the key. We're not trying to eliminate all of them and fast from them. However, there are some that you might realize that you need to eliminate. So for example, I'll give you a practical example in foods. Now, I will do fine with certain foods around the house, okay? Ice cream, I don't care so much for. Cake, you know, I can leave that stuff in the fridge and I'm not gonna binge on them. But I found that if I have the Chips Ahoy rainbow cookies, and if I have Oreos, especially golden Oreos, if I have those laying around, I will break my diet, even though I know I shouldn't. So what do? I eliminate it from my environment. Now, this may be difficult if it's attached to your smartphone, but ask yourself, do you need that social media? If the answer is no, you might actually be better off deleting it, only if the trigger is so bad that you cannot control yourself. So when you're looking to eliminate a dopamine trigger, it has to be one that you cannot control, no matter how hard you try. So what you're gonna do is, once you're aware of your dopamine triggers, you're going to attempt to, for at least a week, try to limit them. Okay, we're not trying to fast from them entirely. We maybe are setting a schedule, because what we're also doing is restricting. We reduce the frequency of them and we replace them. So we restrict maybe how often we're on them. You could even do something like on the iPhone, set the screen time app to block the app once you've used it for, let's say, 2 hours a day. So start by restricting it. Now let's say you restrict it and after a week you noticed, okay, hopefully you tally this or you are keeping track of it somehow, you notice after a week that you did not stick to that 2 hour limit on Instagram. You went to 5 hours every day. You just binged, you couldn't control yourself. Now it might be worth looking into potentially eliminating Instagram for a certain period of time to start dulling that addiction to it, or better yet, replace it with another habit. So maybe you delete your personal page and you replace it with a business page that you don't follow any of your friends on or anything like that, and that way you're only enticed to go on it to help build your brand, your business, and your influence, for example. Or you can replace Instagram with, every time that you're gonna go on Instagram, you read a book, for example, or you, I don't know, watch an educational video, assuming that YouTube and watching these videos is not one of your vices. Whatever it may be, maybe the first time in the morning when you wake up and you look at Instagram right away, you replace that with, you wake up and you figure out a different habit there, okay? Maybe you get up on the other side of the bed. Maybe you put your phone across the room like I do, so you have to get up physically, go and turn the alarm off. And that's not gonna get you looking at Instagram while you're sitting there. Whatever it may be, you gotta figure that out. But you're gonna identify your triggers, and by the way, these aren't the only ones. You gotta identify whatever else is that you're addicted to. It's caffeine could be one, by the way. So alcohol could be another, any drugs, obviously hard drugs goes without saying, okay? Now, after about a week of tracking this, keeping track, being aware of which ones do you actually need to eliminate, or which ones would you just be better off eliminating. Maybe it's just time that you throw the Xbox away or sell it. No problem. You need to determine that. The rest of them you can restrict. So let's say the foods, you only restrict yourself to having the 1 scoop of ice cream after X time, or you reduce frequency. You only have the Subway 1 day of the week or 1 day every other week. And now we start to leverage this as a reward. And so we reverse the conditioning. Instead of reward first, we do work first to achieve reward. This is the way our brain is supposed to be wired for success, okay? And of course, the last one's replace, like I said. 2 very important concepts and graphs I want you to understand here. The first one is understanding willpower. The second one is understanding instant gratification versus delayed gratification. So this is important because these dopamine triggers, and the second you release a massive spike of dopamine without work put in advance, you are messing with your willpower. Now, willpower is a muscle, okay? So by slowly restricting and limiting this over time, you're reducing that addiction, and you are then able to put more focus, more energy, more time, more effort into something else. And so what that does, as you reduce and restrict those foods, you're going to realize that it becomes easier to say no to them because the addiction isn't nearly as powerful, okay? Hope that makes sense. Now, here's something interesting that I found through testing this through myself for several months. Now, willpower looks like this. The black line is an average individual's willpower normally, assuming that we haven't been affected by dopamine in these ways. So you'll notice this is willpower and the x-axis is time over 24 hours, over a day. Now you'll notice it does go down slightly because willpower naturally will drain throughout the day, since every single minute we're essentially making different decisions. Every decision you make drains the willpower a little bit. When you sleep, restart the next day, assume or picture that your willpower meter is full. Every decision you make, it starts to wean down. That's why it's very difficult by the end of the day, when you're tired, you're exhausted, you've done a lot of work, to say no to the cake or the donuts or the pizza. That's an example. So naturally, you're going to decline. Now here's the issue. Most people's willpower, because of this, starts the day off all the way down here, okay? And then they're basically screwed halfway through the day. And this is people that binge all the time. They have no discipline. No discipline. Even right off the bat, they know what they need to do at the beginning of the day. They don't even have the discipline to do that right off the bat because their willpower is shot. It's like somebody who doesn't work out, sits on the couch for 20 years doing nothing. They're just gonna melt. Your muscle's gonna melt away, literally. You cannot flex. You won't be able to pick anything up. Same thing here. Willpower is a muscle, okay? We need to build this up. Now, here's what happens. If you start limiting, replacing, reducing your dopamine triggers and getting a hold on it instead of it having a hold on your brain, you're eventually going to start raising your willpower. In fact, not just to normal levels, you can raise it to above average levels. People look at me and they say, how are you so disciplined? How do you constantly stay on top of things? It's not because I'm special. It's because I've spent the time, the effort, I've invested in myself. I've done the studies, the research on myself. I study myself to make sure that I know what's going on and how can I improve in every area of my life. My discipline has been built. So here's what happens. You get somebody, the blue is a person who controls their dopamine throughout the day and makes sure not to give into useless, wasteful activities like so. They start with much higher willpower throughout the day. In fact, they'll keep going. By the end of the day, they still have more willpower than the average person. So even if they're tired, they still have a higher chance of making the right choices when they need to make them. Here's the weird part. Even if you build up your willpower over several weeks, months of building the right habits, of controlling this, here's the issue. One day, all it takes is looking at these once in the morning. So let's say until 12 p.m. for me, all that time in the morning is pure focus. I'm not looking at YouTube videos. I'm not looking at Instagram unless it's for my business and doing the task I need to do on that task for my business. I'm not looking at Snapchat. I'm not looking at TikTok. They're blocked. They're away. Okay? I'm meditating. I'm doing things to increase my focus. I start up here. Now, if I just slip up one time and I say, you know what, let me just check real quick, and I check the Instagram and it's 8 a.m., okay? That one innocent little check, it seems innocent. Here's what happens. The second that happens, that releases the dopamine right around here, boom. For the rest of the day, your willpower is going to start dropping not only to regular levels, but below it, okay? I've noticed this every time. Almost to no exception. The second I break that focus and leave that attention residue on the screen, on the TV, wherever it is, whatever activity, whatever movie, video I'm watching, the rest of the day, I stop. I'll say, okay, no, I got to get back to work. I got to focus. The focus is not the same. And I start to break, and I start to break. You see, if you break on any one of these things, the entire structure falls apart. And that's what happens here. Everything falls apart and you end up all the way down there. Now, the next day you might be okay, you might be here. But if this happens again and again and again, you end up back there. Just like any drug, just like anything that's bad, you need to be very, very careful with it. You need to be very aware. And again, you want to build out a schedule to where you're restricting, reducing, replacing these things, constantly being aware and tracking them, as we'll talk about, to make sure you're staying on top of it at all times. Now, don't get me wrong, we're all human. We're going to slip up once in a while. It's just natural. But make sure that it doesn't happen too often, because if it does, this is going to start being you again. And this blue line up here is going to slowly start to get away from you. So understand, if you hit any one of these too early on in the day, it's probably going to lead to, like, let's say you check social media too early in the morning. Well, you know, you start to check it more and more and more because your willpower is drained immediately. You start to say, you know what, I don't want to do this work. I'm going to play some video games. And I feel like having that food. And this keeps draining the willpower more and more and more. Then you go and watch porn, then you're watching YouTube and Netflix the rest of the day, and you go, oh my God, that day's gone. Where did the day go? What happened? I got nothing done. So that's what you need to understand here. If you mess up, the whole cookie crumbles for the rest of the day. Now let's talk about understanding instant gratification versus delayed gratification. So instant gratification is obviously getting a reward for nothing immediately. This is what that line looks like. So if 0 is time, okay, or the x-axis is time over the course of years, and the y-axis is desired result. Better health, better happiness, fitness, fulfillment, better success, money, relationships, family, whatever it may be, okay? That's your desired result. Down here, it's illness, sickness, mental health, constant unhappiness, unfulfillment, whatever else, okay? Broke, poverty, scarcity. Here's what happens. Instant gratification, you check social media, you eat that food, it tastes so good. You turn on the TV, it feels so good to sit back and relax. Well, here's what happens. You get a good spike, a good desired result soon, and over time it's gonna drop and it's gonna lead to poverty in all aspects of life. Financial, physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, poverty. Your entire life will be miserable and poor over time. If you continue triggering that dopamine, you will have no willpower, and you're gonna keep doing it. You're gonna find yourself in this perpetual cycle. You're gonna be anxious. You're gonna have depression. That's down here. And the complete opposite, instead of watching the TV, instead of looking at the Instagram, you read a book. Reading the book isn't so pleasurable right now. It's tough, it takes some time to get into it. You go to the gym when you don't feel like it, you'd rather stay home and eat donuts. But you go to the gym instead, it's painful, it's tough, you're tired, you don't want to go. So, your desired result in the moment is not what you want. But, over time, good health, abundance, happiness, relationships, family, okay? Financial success, financial freedom, emotional stability, spiritual health, connection to God, whatever it is you believe in, that all lies over here. Delayed gratification is literally the path to success in any and all areas, always. And that's why. Because at first, we don't want to do the tough thing because it's tough now. We don't see 10 years down the line. We don't see 20, 30, 40 years down the line. And same with this. We want the fast food now. Those people end up hitting me up later. I don't know what happened. I just woke up and I'm 50 pounds overweight. I've got diseases. I've got problems. I need to fix this now. Okay? Well, just like this, it's going to take you years to fix that. Okay, but of course, step in the right direction is good. Now, to cap off the video here, we're talking about habits and accountability to make sure that you wire this in, that you build your willpower up, and that you don't let the whole cookie crumble when you're indulging in these things. You take control of your life and you see success. One thing you gotta understand, the first 30 days, this is what it's gonna take to really start hammering that habit into your brain, rewiring your brain. What you need to understand is going to be very painful. It's going to be very difficult. You need to be very self-aware. You need to be prepared for this to be very difficult. You need to be prepared that you're going to fall off sometimes and not sabotage yourself about it. That's why we're not doing a massive dopamine detox where we're just cutting everything off completely, because chances are you're going to come back, you're going to relapse, and those 30 days were waste. Okay? So, again, we're doing this in increments, incremental changes. Extreme is lower chance of success, not only in the short term, but in the long term. So don't make extreme changes. 2 books I want you to pick up and read that are amazing on talking about this is Atomic Habits, and the better one in my opinion even is The Slight Edge, where it talks about how incremental changes in the right direction over time. Checking Instagram 4 days a week instead of 5 for a few weeks, then 3 days instead of 4, then 2 days. That incremental change will change the trajectory of your life over time. Okay? So, understand that. Now, here are some accountability techniques to make sure you're sticking to this. Accountability is key. The first one is your why. People talk about this all the time. It sounds a little cheesy for those who don't have it yet, but understand this. The only reason somebody would go through the trouble of doing something like this, which again puts you in the 1% of the population, very minor percent of the population, is because You're doing it for the greater good of your life, of your family's life, of humanity, of the world. You want to make an impact in people's lives around you, okay? You need to find your why, and all of you watching can find that why. You can. But you need to take the time to cultivate it and think on it and meditate on it and get clear on it. Because the stronger you build that why, and the stronger you start to do this, you start to see results. You start to get motivated. You start to look for the delayed gratification always. You start to expect hard work. If you're somebody who needs accountability on the nutrition and the fitness side of things, along with guidance and understanding as to how to do that in a sustainable way, then you can check out the comment box below or the description where I've got step-by-step instructions as to how you can reach out to me, how we can get on a conversation on the phone and talk about if we'd be a good fit to work together to help you do that. But again, hire a coach. I spend thousands of dollars a month on a business coach. It has helped keep me accountable, and it's taken my business to the next level. It's helped me level up my mindset. It's helped me level up tremendously. Okay, this is something you need to do. Next, habit tracking. I print off sheets from the book Atomic Habits, actually, that he provides for you. I print off habit tracking sheets. I'm constantly analyzing this data. I'm studying the most important person that you need to study, yourself, always. So track your habits. Check out which triggers you need to do this. You need to track things. If you're not tracking, you're doing things by guessing, arbitrarily. Start tracking and start tracking immediately. See where you fall off, see why you fall off, so that you can fix it. If you don't track it, you don't know what to fix or how to fix it. By the way, I recommend combining all of these things. You should be doing all of these. Know your why, then hire a coach, then they can track your habits for you. Okay, I track my clients' habits. We do things in a very sophisticated, professional way. My business coach tracks my metrics, for example. Or you can just track it on your own in the meantime. Leverage rewards. Start to use these or other rewards as leverage. If you stick to your business metrics this week, or if you stick to only checking your phone at these times throughout the week and so on, you reward yourself with X. Again, this starts to create that habit loop in your brain that will serve you, that will leverage your focus and your attention and your dopamine for good rather than for bad. And lastly, review objectively, weekly and monthly. Objectively is the key word here. Again, if you mess up, when you mess up, understand that it's human nature. It's going to happen. And if we don't understand this, if we don't look at this data objectively, I track my habits, and some days or some weeks, I'll see that I literally failed every day. I don't look at that and say, I'm the worst, I'm terrible, all of this. I look at it and I say, okay, why did this happen? When we fail, we ponder. My coach always reminds me, when we win, we celebrate. When we succeed, we celebrate. When we fail, we ponder. You must fail fast, and you must analyze why and how you're failing so you can fix it. I personally, in my business, not too long ago, had a bottleneck in my sales conversion. So we opened up the bottleneck of lead gen, good. Now I had a bottleneck of sales conversion. I would get on sales call after sales call, and I just stopped closing all of a sudden. I went 5 sales calls, no close. Did I beat myself up over it? No. Instead, I ponder, okay, why is this happening? Let me start tracking more information, more data. Let me utilize the data that I have now. I need to rebuild this. I notice I've been on the phone for less time, building less relationship, building less value, and so on. I make the according tweaks, bottleneck opens, wide open. Everything changes. Why? Because I failed and I pondered and I tracked everything and I tweaked and adjusted accordingly. Guys, that is it for this video. I hope that you found it valuable. I know it's a long one, but my goal in this video was to give you a whole blueprint as to what you need to do for your taking control of your life, taking control of the triggers that cause these addictions, okay? The trigger of this reward system that was put into our brain but is being hijacked by social media, by our phones that we have in our pockets every day. Put this away if you need to. Eliminate what you need to. Look for the sustainable approach. Leverage social media. Make social media work for you, not the other way around. You don't work for them. You don't give them what's most valuable in your life. Attention, time, effort, focus. And that's it. So if you're anybody in here that wants to improve your life dramatically, I hope that you found value in this video. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe also, and comment down below your thoughts, your dopamine triggers, and also what you'd like to see next on the channel. I'd be happy to bring it to you. So again, if you're somebody who wants to reach your max potential in life, what I want you to do is send me a message if you need help with your fitness or your health, your nutrition, your accountability, your habits surrounding that. That is exactly what I help my clients with every single day, and we see insane results. So again, if you're interested in potentially working with me or my team, follow the instructions in the comment section down below or in the description box, where you're going to reach out to me on my Instagram. We're going to set up a time to chat on the phone, or at the very least, I'll provide you some more value to point you in the right direction. If we set up a call on the phone, we'll jump on there, see if we're a good fit to work together to help you reach your transformation in both your body, your mind, and your life. So thanks again for watching. Hope you found this one valuable, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. I'm out.